The coffee burned across my face in an instant. Scalding liquid splashed down my blouse and onto the quarterly report printouts. Shocked silence filled the conference room as 89 pairs of wide eyes stared at my dripping hair, my reddened skin, my ruined presentation. "You ruined everything!" Vivica screamed, empty mug still clutched in her white-knuckled grip. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the pure hatred contorting her features. "Months of work destroyed because you couldn't keep your mouth shut." I stood frozen, coffee streaming down my neck, the pain not yet registering through the shock. On the projection screen behind me, slide 23 still displayed the discrepancies I'd highlighted. Impossible growth numbers that couldn't be explained by any market trend or strategy we'd implemented. Someone gasped. Another person whispered, "Did she just?" The quarterly all-hands meeting had been going perfectly until I'd presented my section of the data analysis. As senior market researcher, it was my job to verify trends before we presented to shareholders. I'd simply pointed out the mathematical impossibility of our European division's reported numbers. Vivica's coffee attack wasn't just unprofessional, it was admission of guilt. I reached for a napkin with trembling fingers, dabbing at my burning skin while maintaining eye contact with her. The room remained silent, except for the soft drip of coffee hitting the carpeted floor. Marek, our CEO, finally broke the spell. "Everyone take 15, he announced, his voice strained. "Vivica, my office, now." As people awkwardly filed out, avoiding looking directly at me, I noticed something nobody else seemed to: the small red light still blinking on the video conference camera. Our international offices were watching everything via Livestream due to time zone differences. The company's entire Asian division had just witnessed my humiliation in real time. I locked myself in the bathroom, finally allowing tears to mix with the coffee stains as I assessed the damage in the mirror. My skin was an angry red, beginning to blister across my cheekbone. The silk top I'd splurged on last month was ruined, brown liquid seeping into the delicate fabric. My phone vibrated with messages from concerned colleagues, but one text from Priya in IT stopped me cold. "Got everything on video. Don't sign anything without talking to me first." Little did I know how significant that message would become. Before I continue my story, I want to thank you for listening. If you're finding this as unbelievable as I did living through it, please hit that like button. It helps others discover what happened. Subscribe if you want to hear more workplace stories where justice actually prevails. I read every comment, so let me know if you've ever witnessed unprofessional behavior that crossed boundaries. My name is Annika, and until that coffee incident, I'd spent 4 years building my reputation at one of the fastest-growing market research firms in the country. I specialized in analyzing consumer behavior patterns across international markets, using data to predict where industries were heading. I wasn't some troublemaker looking for problems. I was the person who stayed late double-checking spreadsheets, who brought homemade cookies to team meetings, who helped colleagues understand complex statistical concepts without making them feel stupid. Vivica joined the company 18 months ago, recruited from a competitor to head our European division. Her resume boasted impressive growth numbers and client acquisitions. Within 6 months, she became my direct manager after a reorganization. The problems started gradually. First, she excluded me from meetings where our team's data was presented. Then she began altering my reports before they reached executive level. Small changes at first, tweaking percentages just enough to make good results look exceptional. When I first noticed these changes, I assumed they were innocent rounding errors. I approached Vivica privately after a director's meeting. "I noticed the conversion numbers in the slides were different from my original analysis," I said carefully. "I just want to make sure we're aligned on methodology." Her smile never reached her eyes. "Annika, you're brilliant with raw data, but presentation is about telling a story. Sometimes we need to simplify for the executive team, but changing 3% growth to 8% isn't simplifying. It's misrepresenting our position." Her expression hardened. "Do you know how many jobs depend on investor confidence? Sometimes we need to show potential rather than current reality." That conversation haunted me for weeks, as I watched more of my analyses transform between submission and presentation. Each quarter, the disparities grew larger. Our European numbers defied gravity and logic. I began documenting everything, each original report, each modified version. I created comparison spreadsheets, highlighting discrepancies. I noted meeting times when questions were deflected, when access was denied. Meanwhile, Vivica's star rose meteorically. The board doubled our European expansion budget based on her miraculous performance. She received a leadership award at the annual retreat. Rumors circulated about her being groomed for the C-suite. Last month, I discovered something truly alarming. Working late, I accidentally accessed a shared drive I'd never seen before. Inside were duplicate analytics dashboards, one showing actual performance metrics, another showing the enhanced versions presented to leadership. Both had Vivica's digital signature. I forwarded myself key files before logging out, my heart pounding. This wasn't just fudging numbers, it was systematic fraud. 3 days before the quarterly all-hands, I requested a meeting with Vivica to discuss my presentation segment. I'm concerned about these growth projections, I said, sliding my report across her desk. The numbers don't align with market conditions or our actual customer acquisition costs. She barely glanced at the paper. We've implemented new strategies that explain the acceleration. Just present the approved slides. But these figures suggest your job is analysis, Annika, not questioning leadership decisions. She leaned forward. The board already approved next year's budget based on these projections. Do you understand what challenging these numbers would mean? Her threat hung between us. I understand completely, I replied, keeping my voice steady. And I did understand. I understood I was witnessing deliberate deception that put the entire company at risk. I understood that someone would eventually take the fall when reality caught up with fantasy. I understood that whistleblowers rarely survived with their careers intact. What I didn't understand was how far Vivica would go to protect her fraudulent success story. The morning of the presentation, I made 2 decisions. First, I prepared slides showing both the reported numbers and the actual metrics side by side. Second, I placed a small USB drive in my pocket containing all my documentation. When my turn came to present, I took a deep breath and showed the truth, respectfully, analytically, without accusation, just data that couldn't be reconciled without explanation. That's when Vivica's coffee mug came flying toward my face. Now, standing in the bathroom with burns developing on my skin, I faced a critical decision: walk away and protect my career, or stand my ground knowing the potential consequences. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Marek's assistant. HR meeting. Conference room B. 1 hour. As I dabbed burn ointment on my cheek from the first aid kit, the door swung open. It was Lainey from marketing, her eyes wide with shock. Annika, is there anything I can do? That was completely insane. Did everyone see it? I asked, my voice smaller than I intended. Everyone, including Tokyo, Singapore, and Seoul on the live stream. She hesitated. There's something else you should know. The stream didn't cut off during the break, and Vivica went straight to the server room afterward. Whatever she did there, the international offices saw everything. My heart skipped. What exactly did she do in the server room? I don't know details, Lainey whispered, but Priya from IT is trying to reach you. She said it's urgent. I quickly called Priya, who answered immediately. Annika, don't go to that HR meeting alone. Vivica is claiming you deliberately sabotaged her by presenting unauthorized data. She's gathered 3 senior directors who are backing her version of events. But everyone saw what happened, I protested. People see what they want when power is involved, Priya replied grimly. Listen carefully. She went to the server room right after the incident and used her override access to delete files from your work account. I'm guessing they were your original reports and analyses. Ice formed in my stomach. Can you recover them? Maybe. But here's the important part. She didn't realize our disaster recovery system automatically backs up everything to our international servers hourly. When she tried accessing those, it triggered security alerts in Singapore. So my files still exist? Yes, but that's not all. The live stream captured her entire server room visit. She was talking to someone on her phone the entire time, explaining what she was deleting and why. Our Singapore office has the footage. I leaned against the sink, mind racing. What should I do now? I leaned against the sink. What should I do now? Stall in the HR meeting. Don't sign anything. I'm working with legal to secure the evidence properly. I ended the call just as my phone chimed with another message. This one from Ellis in finance. Those discrepancies you found? I've been tracking similar patterns. We need to talk. The HR meeting was worse than I anticipated. I entered conference room B to find Vivica seated beside Jana from HR, along with directors from 3 departments, all mentored by Vivica during their careers. Their expressions conveyed polite sympathy that didn't reach their eyes. Annika, thank you for joining us, Jana began, sliding a document across the table. We want to resolve this unfortunate incident quickly and discreetly. I glanced at the paper, a mutual non-disclosure agreement with a small severance package. They wanted me gone. Before we begin, Viveka said, her voice professionally controlled, I want to sincerely apologize for my emotional response. The pressure of delivering consistently exceptional results sometimes affects my judgment. The directors nodded understandingly. However, she continued, we need to address the underlying issue. Annika deliberately presented unauthorized data that contradicted approved reports, creating confusion among our international teams. I kept my face neutral. I presented factual market analyses based on raw data from our actual customer acquisition channels. That's your interpretation, countered Director Tomas. Viveka's team uses sophisticated methodologies that sometimes appear counterintuitive to those without the full context. Jana cleared her throat. We're suggesting a clean break for both parties. The company will provide 2 months severance and a reference letter. In exchange, you agree not to discuss today's events or any internal data methodologies. You want me to quietly disappear after being assaulted in front of the entire company? I kept my voice calm, despite my racing pulse. We're characterizing it as a regrettable workplace disagreement, Jana replied smoothly. Viveka has already accepted formal reprimand for her emotional response. I need time to review this document with my attorney, I said, buying time as Priya had suggested. Director Fiona leaned forward. Annika, your performance has always been stellar. This situation is unfortunate, but prolonging it benefits no one. Your career prospects. The door swung open, cutting her off. Marek entered with Priya and a woman I recognized as general counsel. Their expressions were stone. This meeting is cancelled, Marek announced flatly. Jana blinked. Sir, we're in the middle of… I said cancelled. He turned to Viveka. The board has called an emergency session. Your presence is required immediately. What's this about? Viveka asked, plastic smile faltering. The general counsel spoke, her words precise as scalpels. Security breaches, data tampering, and potential fraud. Our Singapore office has submitted concerning evidence regarding manipulation of market analyses and subsequent attempts to destroy evidence. The directors exchanged alarmed glances. That's absurd, Viveka laughed, though I noticed sweat beading along her hairline. There's obviously been some misunderstanding about standard data normalization practices. The live stream captured you, deleting files from Annika's account, while explaining to someone named Carson how you've been fixing the numbers for the past year. Priya's voice was quiet but carried. Throughout the room, you specifically referenced misleading investors about European market penetration rates. Color drained from Viveka's face. We'll sort this out, she said, gathering her things. Clearly, some comments were taken out of context. As she stood to leave, Marek blocked her path. Security will meet you at the boardroom. Your access credentials have been temporarily suspended. When the door closed behind them, I finally exhaled. Jana stared at the NDA document, then silently collected it and left without meeting my eyes. I sat alone, trembling with delayed shock until Priya returned 20 minutes later. The board is reviewing everything now. They've called in forensic accountants to examine all European division reports. I swallowed hard. What happens now? They want you to help reconstruct the actual performance metrics. Can you do that? I have everything backed up at home, I admitted. I've been tracking the discrepancies for months. Priya smiled. Smart woman. By the way, Ellis from finance wants to meet with you. Says he's been compiling his own evidence. That evening, I worked late with Ellis and 2 forensic accountants, rebuilding accurate reports from raw data sources. The picture that emerged was devastating. Our European division had been losing money for 3 consecutive quarters while reporting record growth. She nearly pulled it off, Ellis murmured, as we stared at the actual numbers. Another 2 quarters, and she would have transferred to headquarters with a promotion, leaving someone else to discover this mess. How could no one notice? I asked. Ellis's expression darkened. People did notice. 3 analysts requested transfers after questioning her methods. 1 was let go during restructuring after pushing too hard for verification. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You'll regret this. The board won't sacrifice their golden goose over some spreadsheets. I showed Ellis. who immediately contacted security. She shouldn't have access to company communications anymore, he said worriedly. By midnight, the situation had escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. The preliminary forensic report revealed that investors had poured nearly 40 million into European expansion based on fraudulent growth metrics. The regulatory implications were enormous. I finally returned to my apartment at 2 a.m., emotionally and physically exhausted. As I unlocked my door, something felt wrong. Small things were out of place. A book moved, a drawer partially open. Someone had been inside. Heart pounding, I called building security, who confirmed no maintenance visits had been scheduled. As the guard checked my apartment, he found nothing missing, but noticed my laptop had been opened. Change all your passwords, he advised before leaving, and maybe stay somewhere else tonight. Too tired to leave, I double-locked my door and pushed a chair against it. Sleep came fitfully, punctuated by nightmares of burning coffee and deleted files. I woke to 37 missed calls from colleagues, reporters, and numbers I didn't recognize. Overnight, the story had somehow leaked to financial news sites. Our company's stock had dropped 18% in pre-market trading. The headline made my blood run cold. Market research firm faces investigation after senior executive accused of falsifying European growth data. Another text arrived as I read the news. You destroyed everything. Hope you're ready for what comes next. V. When I arrived at the office, security escorted me directly to the executive floor, not as a prisoner, but as a protected asset. The atmosphere was chaotic, with lawyers and crisis management teams huddled in every available space. Merrick met me in his office, looking like he hadn't slept. The board is meeting with major investors today. We need you to present the actual numbers and explain how you discovered the discrepancies. Me? Shouldn't that be someone more senior? They need to hear it from the person who uncovered it. Credibility is all we have left right now. As I prepared for the most important presentation of my career, Ellis appeared at my temporary office door. You should know, Vivica isn't going down quietly. She's telling anyone who'll listen that you manipulated the data to frame her after she rejected your request for promotion. I laughed bitterly. That's ridiculous. There are timestamps on everything. I know, but she has allies. 3 directors are repeating her version. And, he hesitated. What? Someone leaked your personnel file to a reporter. They're highlighting that you were passed over for promotion twice before Vivica arrived. I felt sick. They're painting me as disgruntled. Exactly. And there's more. Building security reported someone tried accessing your apartment again this morning while you were here. The implications chilled me. This wasn't just about professional reputation anymore. It felt personal and increasingly dangerous. As I walked to the boardroom later that day, clutching my authenticated data reports, Priya rushed toward me. Wait, she whispered urgently. Before you go in there, you need to see this. She showed me her tablet, displaying an email chain accidentally included in the investigation data. The emails were between Vivica and someone named Carson Hayes at a competing firm. They detailed not just data manipulation, but a systematic plan to inflate our European numbers, secure massive investment, then leave the company before the house of cards collapsed. The final email included a line that made my hands shake. Once we control the narrative, we can discredit anyone who questions the numbers. If necessary, we'll make examples of them. I looked up from the tablet. She planned this from the beginning. Priya nodded grimly. And she's not finished. Security just reported she accessed our building using another employee's credentials an hour ago. No one can find her. As I digested this information, the boardroom door opened. All eyes turned to me. Directors, investors, lawyers, and forensic accountants, waiting for explanations only I could provide. I stepped forward, my career and possibly more hanging in the balance, wondering where Vivica was and what she planned next. I entered the boardroom with my heart hammering against my ribs, clutching the data files that would determine not just my future, but potentially the company's survival. 14 pairs of eyes tracked my movement. Board members, major investors, and legal representatives arranged around a massive oval table. The tension in the air was almost physical, pressing against my skin. Merrick nodded toward an empty seat. Annika, thank you for joining us. Given the circumstances, the board has requested you present the actual European division performance metrics directly. I connected my drive to the presentation system. my fingertips still stinging from yesterday's burns. The first slide appeared, a simple comparison between reported growth and actual performance across 18 months. As you can see, I began, my voice steadier than I expected. The discrepancies began small, but expanded dramatically after the second quarter. For 20 minutes, I walked them through the evidence, explaining methodology and verification processes. I showed how the actual customer acquisition costs were triple what had been reported, how retention rates had been artificially inflated, how profit margins were negative rather than the reported 18% positive. The board chairman, a silver-haired man named Reed, removed his glasses. To be absolutely clear, you're stating the European division has lost nearly $17 million while reporting $23 million in profit? That's correct. The supporting data is consistent across multiple verification methods. A woman I recognized as our largest institutional investor leaned forward. When did you first notice these discrepancies? And why didn't you alert anyone sooner? I felt a trap in her question. I began documenting inconsistencies 9 months ago. I raised concerns through appropriate channels, first with my direct manager, Vivica, then with finance oversight. And the response? I was told the differences reflected advanced modeling techniques and strategic presentation of potential rather than current metrics. Ellis, sitting near the door, added, Finance received similar explanations when we questioned the numbers. Vivica had cultivated strong relationships with several directors who validated her approaches. 3 directors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Reed's expression hardened. The coffee incident? That happened after you presented contradictory data? Yes. I simply showed both sets of numbers side by side during my assigned segment of the quarterly presentation. The investor tapped her pen against the table. And now Vivica is claiming you manipulated data to frame her after being denied promotion. How do you respond? I met her gaze directly. Every analysis I've presented includes verified raw data with timestamps and authentication logs. Independent forensic accountants have confirmed my findings. The livestream captured her, attempting to delete evidence immediately after the incident. Murmurs rippled around the table. Furthermore, I continued, this morning's investigation revealed communication between Vivica and Carson Hayes at Velox Analytics, detailing their plan to inflate our numbers, secure investment, then leave before discovery. This revelation elicited gasps. Merrick's face drained of color. Velox was our most aggressive competitor. Those communications haven't been authenticated, cautioned the general counsel. They're being verified now, Priya interjected from the doorway. But security has another urgent concern. We can't locate Vivica within the building, though her borrowed credentials show she's still inside. She's disabled several security cameras on the executive floor. Reed stood immediately. Suspend this meeting. Security protocols in effect. As everyone gathered their materials, my phone vibrated with a text. Check storage room 3E. Come alone if you want to protect what's left of your reputation. V. I shouldn't have gone alone. Every instinct screamed against it, but something in the message's tone suggested she had leverage I couldn't ignore. Slipping away from the dispersing meeting, I took the stairs to the 3rd floor, finding the rarely used storage section deserted. Room 3E's door stood slightly ajar. I pushed it open to find Vivica sitting calmly beside a small table, looking immaculate despite being a fugitive within her own workplace. The sight was so incongruent, it momentarily stunned me. Close the door, Annika, she said pleasantly, as if inviting me to a normal meeting. Against better judgment, I stepped inside, leaving the door open a crack. Security is looking for you. I know. We don't have much time, she gestured to a chair across from her. You've created quite the spectacle. The board seems impressed with your detective work. This isn't about impressing anyone. You committed fraud that put the entire company at risk. Her smile remained unwavering. Such righteousness. Tell me, what happens to all those jobs in our European offices when investors pull out? Have you considered the collateral damage of your crusade? You created that risk, not me. Perspective is everything. I accelerated growth projections to secure investment we needed. Without that funding, European expansion would have stalled completely. You fabricated results and misled investors. I created opportunity, she countered. This company was stagnating before I arrived. My methods brought in $40 million in new capital, based on lies. Her expression hardened minutely. I came here to offer you a choice before things escalate further. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were printouts of private messages between me and a former colleague who'd left for a competitor last year. The conversations included discussions about company strategy and market positioning, sharing internal strategies with competitors. Very problematic. Viveka's voice dripped with false concern. Combined with your personnel history of promotion denials, this paints an unfortunate picture of motivation. My blood ran cold. The messages were real but innocuous. General industry talk with a friend, nothing proprietary, but carefully selected and presented without context. This is manipulation, I said quietly. This is survival. You've destroyed 18 months of my work. Did you expect no response? What do you want? Simple. A joint statement acknowledging mutual misunderstanding of methodologies. You retract your claims of deliberate manipulation. We both resign with appropriate packages. The company avoids a public scandal. That's not going to happen. Her smile tightened. Then I released these communications to the board alongside evidence suggesting you altered data timestamps to frame me. 3 directors will support my version. Your credibility, your career, everything you've built, gone. No one will believe that after seeing the live stream. People believe what powerful people tell them to believe, Annika. You should have learned that by now. As she spoke, I noticed something on her open laptop. An email draft to our entire client list with attachments labeled Confidential Client Strategy. My stomach lurched as I realized her backup plan wasn't just to discredit me, it was scorched earth. You'd destroy the whole company? I whispered. I prefer to think of it as leaving nothing for those who betrayed me. Her finger hovered over the send button. Your decision? The storage room door swung fully open. Ellis stood there, with Priya and 2 security officers. We heard everything, Ellis said quietly. Viveka's composure finally cracked. She lunged for her laptop, but Priya was faster, pulling it away before she could send the email. You recorded this? Without consent? Viveka sputtered, backing away as security approached. No need, Priya replied. The board has been watching this entire conversation via video conference. After your first threat message to Annika, we activated emergency protocols, including remote access to all company devices, including the phone you used to text her. Viveka's face contorted with rage as security escorted her from the room, her threats echoing down the hallway. Back in the boardroom, Reed's expression was grim as the final pieces fell into place. The forensic team had verified the emails between Viveka and Carson Hayes, confirming industrial espionage. 3 directors resigned on the spot rather than face investigation. By evening, Viveka had been formally terminated and escorted from the premises. Legal proceedings pending. I sat alone in my office afterward, physically and emotionally drained. When Merrick knocked on my door, the board would like to see you, he said, his expression unreadable. Expecting more questions, possibly even lingering suspicion, I returned to the boardroom. The remaining board members and investors were still there, now joined by several senior managers. Reed spoke first. Annika, your actions exposed serious wrongdoing that could have destroyed this company. Your thoroughness and integrity are exactly what we need during this recovery period. I nodded cautiously, uncertain where this was heading. We'd like to offer you the position of Interim European Operations Director while we restructure. The role comes with a significant salary increase and team authority. You'll work directly with the forensic accountants to rebuild accurate reporting systems. The offer stunned me. I'm not sure I'm qualified. You're precisely qualified, interrupted the institutional investor. You understood the numbers when others accepted convenient fictions. You maintained integrity when pressured to conform. You prioritized truth over personal advancement. What about the European offices, the employees there? We'll need honest leadership now more than ever, Marek finished. They deserve to know where they truly stand, not where someone pretended they were. 2 weeks later, I stood before those European teams via video conference, delivering difficult but honest assessments of our position. Contrary to Viveka's predictions, most expressed relief at finally understanding the actual challenges they faced. No more impossible targets based on fictional baselines, I promised them. We rebuild with transparency. The recovery was neither quick nor easy. Our stock took a significant hit when the true financial position was disclosed. 2 major investors pulled out, though the institutional investor who'd questioned me in the boardroom doubled her stake, calling us a case study in responsible corporate recovery. 3 months after the coffee incident, I sat in my new office, reviewing the first fully verified quarterly results. The numbers weren't impressive. European operations remained in the red, but they were honest, with realistic improvement trajectories. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Vivica had pleaded guilty to securities fraud and industrial espionage charges. The plea deal included cooperation against Carson Hayes and Velox Analytics, revealing a broader scheme targeting multiple competitors. As I closed the alert, an email arrived from Reed. The subject line read, "The Real Revenge." Inside was a link to an industry publication featuring our company as a case study in corporate resilience and ethical recovery. The article highlighted how transparent reporting had restored investor trust despite revealing short-term losses. The final paragraph quoted an unnamed board member. Our recovery strategy was simple, the exact opposite of what created the crisis. Where there was deception, we chose transparency. Where there were shortcuts, we embraced proper process. Where leadership demanded blind loyalty, we now reward principled objection. Attached was a note from Reed. This is worth more than $40 million in fraudulent growth. This is sustainable business built on integrity. This is the real revenge against those who would sacrifice our future for short-term glory. I smiled, realizing he was right. My revenge wasn't watching Vivica's downfall or taking her position. The real revenge was rebuilding everything she tried to destroy, but stronger, more transparent, and ethically sound. That evening, as I packed to visit our Berlin office, I found a small package on my desk, a beautiful ceramic travel mug with a note from the team. For the woman who showed us that honesty burns brighter than ambition. Some might say the greatest revenge is success, but I discovered something more powerful. The greatest revenge is becoming the leader you needed when you were vulnerable. Every day, I mentor team members to speak up when numbers don't make sense. Every strategy meeting begins with what's true, not what's convenient. If you've stayed with my story this long, maybe you're facing your own workplace challenge, someone taking credit, hiding problems, or punishing honesty. Remember that integrity may burn slowly, but truth eventually boils over. If my story resonated with you, please subscribe for more workplace insights. I share new leadership lessons monthly. Leave a comment about how you've handled difficult workplace situations. Your experiences might help someone facing similar challenges today. The burn scars on my cheek faded long ago, but the lessons remain, permanent reminders that sometimes the most painful moments lead to our greatest transformations.